Hello, Namaste, and welcome to the Festival of Bharat. My name is Sharan Sethi, and I'm your host for this program. India witnessed peak violence in the 1980s when the Khalistani movement took shape and was most active. It even led to the assassination of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, after which there were the 1984 riots. So, Hindus and Sikhs in Punjab have had a very bitter history in the recent past, if you were to look at it in that way. But today we are joined by somebody who genuinely believes that there is a Sanatani connection between Hindus and Sikhs, and that needs to be restored. Why are Khalistani groups so active in Canada and the UK? Why are fake referendums held very often? Why is Pakistan not a plan of the Khalistani project? Why don't they demand certain parts of Pakistan that was originally supposed to be there? Why have the farmers' protests suddenly, from what it was a political protest, become a religious one with a lot of Khalistani elements being present there, take a particular shape? These are the questions I'm going to be asking my guest, Puneet Sahani ji, today. Puneet ji, namaste and sat sri akal. Welcome to the Festival of Bharat.
Jai Ma Bharat.
How are you and how's everything in America right now? How's the pandemic?
I'm doing well. Things are getting back to normal. It's a sunny day, so everything is fine.
Thank you. I'm really glad to know that. Let me begin by asking you. I watched a few of your earlier interviews that you've given to different channels. And what I found very interesting is the use of this particular term called MacSikhs. So are you referring to the Abrahamisation of Sikhs here when you speak of that term?
So, Saran, actually, if you look at Sikh history to today, from Guru Nanak's time to today, that's roughly about 500 years, right? And the first 200 years actually coincide with 200 years of Mughal rule, right? And then Mughal rule falls and, the Gurus also leave. And then there is another 200-year period. So basically Sikhism as it existed in the first 400 years and how it has been distorted in the last 100 years is completely different. It's like, for example, my great grandparents would come. They would not be able to relate to what is happening. So actually there is a magisterial book written by one person called Harjot Oberoi. It's called Construction of Religious Boundaries. It was written in 1994 and basically they became crazy, because he basically destroyed this entire Khalistani narrative. So when even you talk about Hindu Sikh community, they were just like in overflowing, like for example, you are a Shak and you are a Vaishnav, you are as much a Hindu. So this was a moment in Punjab and there was no distinction between Hindus and Sikhs. There was not even two communities. But this was created, and when they say about fundamentalism, you have to understand something very curious that happened. So when they talked about fundamentalism, it was not going back to the fundamentals. It was actually going back to the tradition. It was distorting the tradition or basically killing the tradition for political ends. So this is what happened. And, in that sense, because, there was an English government servant. His name was Arthur McAuliffe. So he was the first person who wrote an extended history of the Sikhs. And, because it was the first one in English, everybody referred to that source. And that basically what people are following now. It's not what our gurus wrote or what the books were written in Guru's time or Maharaja Ranjit Singh's time. What are we telling is history basically created in McAuliffe. So that's people who basically follow an SGPC. They are called McAuliffe Sikhs or McSikhs. And, he has written something so outrageous. So he basically writes 6 volumes and I just share an extract and I'll put it also on my Twitter. You can share it, some things you can't believe. But what he basically says, for example, he writes in volume 5 that the Guru Gobind Singh has said, how he knows, nobody knows, that when the English would come, oh, you Khalsa, you become one with the British. You become basically their mercenaries. They will go east, west, you go along with them. They will have a very glorious rule. And if you are very loyal to them, you will get everything. You will get money, fame, peace, and women. So this is your duty as the Sikhs to basically becomes, lapdogs of the British. This is what he has written. And this was promoted by the SGPC and their people like that. So the entire history has been completely distorted, and nobody can speak against it, because they have control like the religious institutions. And whatever you say, I think you're from Karnataka, it just becomes a religious thing. It's not a question about what is ethical, what is logical, but they just play this religious game. So that is the case. Yeah.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.